Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're taking a deep dive into the eerie, quiet thickets and small canals of rural Bangladesh. We're going to uncover the truth about a highly controversial, wildly misunderstood bird. Now, if you've ever wandered near these dense brush areas at dawn, high noon, or maybe just as the sun sets, you might have heard a call that locals often describe as ghostly or, well, spooky. But behind that eerie call is an animal whose survival behaviors are so intense, they literally spark heated debates. Which brings us to a pretty compelling question. Is this bird a criminal of nature or a vital protector? See, we're talking about a bird that's earned a somewhat ruthless reputation. It has this controversial, seemingly cruel habit of actively hunting and snatching the chicks of other bird species right out of their nests. And honestly, when you hear something like that, it's incredibly easy to just cast this animal as the villain of the ecosystem, right? But as we're about to uncover, nature rarely operates in simple black and white.
Meet the Greater Coucal, or as it's known locally in Bengali, the Kanakua. Visually, it is absolutely striking. It boasts these bright brownish-orange wings, intense red eyes, and a really thick, formidable beak. Now, scientifically speaking, the Greater Coucal belongs to the Cuculidae family, so yes, it is officially a member of the cuckoo family. But I want to make this crystal clear right from the jump. While it shares some visual traits and genetic lineage with the common cuckoos we're all used to, this bird operates completely differently in its ecosystem. Actually, it's practically a master of the ground. It's known for walking silently through thick vegetation rather than soaring through the skies. It's kind of like the ninja of the cuckoo family.
Okay, let's dive into this comparison. When you look at the evolutionary divergence, the differences between the greater coucal and your standard common cuckoo are just staggering. Where the common cuckoo is a famous brood parasite, meaning, it lays its eggs in other birds' nests and just abandons them completely, the greater coucal actually builds its own elaborate nest and totally shares the parenting duties. Plus, while common cuckoos flutter around the canopy looking for bugs, our coucal is a ground-dwelling stealth hunter. They're just entirely different beasts when it comes to survival strategies. Section 1. Built for the hunt. Anatomy of a predator. So to understand why the coucal hunts the way it does, we really have to look at its biological hardware. This bird isn't just foraging for seeds, okay? It is a highly specialized predator, perfectly evolved to take down incredibly dangerous, slippery prey. We're talking large frogs and venomous snakes. And taking down a venomous snake in heavy brush requires some serious power, which brings us to this fascinating metric. 30 to 40. That is the bite force measured in newtons that the greater coucal can exert. To put that into perspective, that's enough force to easily crack open hard nuts, all generated entirely by its thick, slightly curved beak and a super robust jawbone. When this bird clamps down, it absolutely means business. And that incredible bite force is an absolute necessity. While the common cuckoo only musters about 20 to 25 newtons of bite force, which is plenty for grabbing a soft caterpillar, the greater coucal requires nearly double that grip strength. Why? Well, because holding on to a thrashing, slippery frog or a highly venomous snake fighting for its life in the dense brush, that requires absolute lockdown power. Their strong jawbones give them that extra ability to strike repeatedly and decisively without taking damage themselves. But the jaw is really just one weapon in its arsenal. Let's look at these specific physical adaptations. Those striking, bright red eyes, they're specially evolved to detect the tiniest movements on the forest floor. This allows them to spot hidden prey instantly. And, well, spot you too, which is why they vanish into the thickets so fast. They also have these long legs and strong claws for gripping prey. But here's an amazing fact. Their long tail is absolutely critical for their survival. When they're tangling with a snake, the coucal uses that long tail as a dynamic counterbalance to dodge venomous strikes. Without it, they would literally lose their balance and become the snake's prey. Also, because of this heavy, specialized body, they actually lack the ability for sustained flapping flight. Instead, they navigate by climbing up high and doing these gliding leaps. It's almost exactly like a flying squirrel, just gliding to cover distances in the air. Section 2. Unique nesting and cooperative parenting. Let's move to the monsoon season in Bangladesh. As it rolls in, bringing life to the plants and massively multiplying the populations of frogs and insects, a totally different side of the greater coucal emerges. This supposed villain of the brush transforms into a remarkably dedicated parent. Let's see how this builds into an incredible 15 to 18-day nesting partnership. First, together, the male and female construct a hidden dome-shaped nest out of grass and leaves right near the water. Then, the female lays 3 to 5 pale eggs.
But here is the most uncuckoo-like behavior of the whole shebang. They actually share the incubation. When the female leaves to hunt during the day, the male takes over the eggs. And at night, the male aggressively guards the nest from the surrounding thickets, protecting his family from outside predators. It's just a fantastic display of shared duty.
Section 3. A cruel survival necessity. But once those chicks hatch, man, the pressure is on. And this is where we have to revisit that mystery from the beginning of our explainer, the coucal's seemingly malicious habit of snatching other birds' chicks. I know, it sounds horrific, doesn't it? But we have to view this through the lens of ecology, not human morality. It all comes down to an extreme high protein demand for rapid chick growth. To grow fast enough to survive in a predator-filled environment, coucal chicks require a massive amount of protein. The parents are practically working in overdrive, bringing back everything from venomous insects to snakes to frogs. But when the opportunity arises, another bird's chick represents a vital, high-value protein package that can ensure their own offspring's survival. It's not evil, it's pure biological necessity. To really drive this point home, let's contrast these two very different survival strategies. The greater coucal hunts chicks purely out of a nutritional need to feed its own family. The common cuckoo, on the other hand, it entirely avoids parenting. It parasitically drops its egg in a host's nest, and when the cuckoo chick hatches, it ruthlessly pushes the host bird's unhatched eggs or even living chicks out of the nest to die, just so it can hog all the food. Now, both might seem brutal to us, but the coucal is doing it as an active, providing parent. Section 4. Nature's vital protector. So, the crucial point here is that what we perceive as ruthless behavior is actually the exact mechanism keeping the entire ecosystem functioning. The greater coucal isn't a criminal, it's a custodian. By aggressively hunting venomous insects, frogs, and especially snakes to meet those high-protein demands, they actively prevent an overpopulation of dangerous pests. I absolutely love this quote from our source material. Nature actually keeps the balance of food and feeder this way. It perfectly encapsulates the coucal's role. Now, sure, occasionally a coucal might snatch a domestic pigeon or a chicken from a rural farm, which understandably upsets people. But removing the greater coucal in retaliation, that would be a complete disaster. It would collapse the local food web, inevitably unleashing plagues of crop-destroying insects and deadly venomous snakes right into those very same communities. Which leaves us with this final, really important thought. What happens to our fragile ecosystems if we remove the so-called villains that actually keep them in balance? The greater coucal might have a spooky call and a fearsome hunting strategy, but it is undeniably an ecological guardian. So the next time you hear that ghostly sound echoing from the thickets, don't think of a monster. Think of a dedicated parent, a master hunter, and a vital protector working tirelessly to keep nature perfectly in check. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes open for the hidden wonders and guardians in your own backyard.